Hello from India, specifically South India, the state of Tamil Nadu, where I'm from. I am making a trip here after 4 years, almost 4 years, and I am in a new place that I haven't actually really spent time ever in India, and it is the farm and property and land that my dad has been tending to along with help. And it's my first time that I get to really soak in this place. There's a little doggo there. He's kind of not sure exactly what I'm doing. There's a rooster that goes off, not just in the morning, but all times of the day. There's the house, shed for the car and motorcycle. This is a tin shed, and then there's also chickens and hens. And then there's also, let's see if you can see, that guy over there, that's the neighbor's cow that's grazing. And we've actually been getting raw milk every morning from the neighbor's cow. We get 1 liter of milk here, which is incredible. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, really what I'm coming on here today is to just share a super raw just place of where I'm at. Because even as I was wanting to come on here and share, I was like, oh my gosh, what do I share? Do I just vlog my trip and say this is where I'm at and this is what I'm doing? And I just didn't feel called to do that. And the first whole week I was here, I was just filled with jet lag. So I've just been kind of going into this deeper death cycle of what am I sharing for? What is it giving me? Where am I sharing from? From my heart, from what is my purpose? Just going through a whole deep reset and recalibration, and I feel very at peace with it, but it's also very confusing because I have always been a creator. I very much resonate with being an artist and creator, whether it's my writing, whether it's making videos, which I've actually done since middle school before I even came on to YouTube or shared Instagram videos. And so I've just been in this rhythm of creating. And before I started working full time, I actually had it, and I mean, it never felt like I had more time, but I definitely was in a rhythm of sharing consistently. And that was very much part of what helped build my brand, was me being the face of my brand, whether it was sharing events or hosting retreats or selling products, doing coaching. It was about me coming on here and sharing. And so you could say that me coming on here to share was providing some kind of monetary support for myself. Maybe not directly making money off of every video, but it was still supporting me in some way because it was generating a community that I could thus sell a product or a service or a retreat to. I have been doing so much work on getting into the state of wealth and abundance. And I know there's so many books on it, and I have read so many, and I have deeply sat with myself and gotten so many realizations over the past years, and really been breaking this cycle of you need to work hard and put in time and a lot of physical or just long grinding hours in order to make money. And that has been so deeply embedded into me, not just in my lifetime, but generationally, ancestrally. So to break that has been a huge lesson for me, and it's been really challenging. And so coming on here and creating or sharing my life, it is easy to get kind of confused with that mindset of generating and creating and grinding, and when to take a pause is really difficult. And I've felt the past almost 2 years has been a different kind of very sacred pause to myself, but I've still very much felt the need to come on and create videos and create posts. And I don't know if that will ever be a full stop pause. It's definitely been substantially less than I've shared. And so coming back to even coming on here on video, there's so much of me that was I want to share so much of my trip. And then I was why? And in many days, I didn't have much energy to have just been feeling I'm resting for the entire year of a lot of work that I've put in and just been on. And so allowing myself to rest and also just take in all of the magic that I might not be getting if I was focusing on capturing every moment. I mean, I'm on my Instagram stories, but to really tell a consistent story on here through a video and capturing multiple moments takes a lot of editing, takes a lot of thought process. My mind is consistently going to be in every single place and being like, what can I capture? And it was really nice to just be fully present and go through my feels. I'm midway through my period. And yeah, like jet lag and even going through my process of eating completely differently on here, it's been a wild journey. So the question is, why am I sharing? What am I getting from it? And there's been so many different types of things I've been pausing to reflect on. For example, this past year, I've really been understanding and kind of noticing, like, what does that feel like to put more of my body, more skin on Instagram? Clearly, those posts always do better. It's very much encouraged by the algorithm and society to have more skin out there. But diving deeper into really insightful conversations in my partnership and union, but also feeling into myself, and I'm like, how much of myself am I just putting out there for free, and what's the purpose of it? Is it in my truth currently? And so even like archiving posts and deleting posts has been very therapeutic and a huge part of my rebirth process. Another thing that comes up for me during this pause of this trip specifically is feeling into my worthiness, because I love the work that I get to do with the ranch, and it's been such an honor to be able to be there since the beginning. But a deeply rooted fear that doesn't just actually come from me, it comes from my parents and probably generations before that, is like, if I pause, if I rest, am I going to be replaced? Is someone going to take over the work I'm doing? Are people going to think that I'm not an asset or as needed in the company if I'm not always on and doing things and generating and making a difference? And so to be able to pause with all of that and be like, actually, I can fully breathe into this, and not to get too into it, but in that mindset and abundance of wealth, it's realizing, like, if I'm a circulator of money, whether it's the physical form or experience form, if I'm consistently circulating through, then there's never going to be a stop. And no matter what decision I make with my job or whatever happens that is maybe out of my control, if I'm consistently circulating, then that wealth is not going to end. In fact, it might even grow. And so that's not really saying like, what am I going to do with my job? It's more so just like, how am I able to breathe through the natural fears that come up, and how am I able to feel so worthy that I believe that I am wealth, I am abundance, and I am joy. I got that mantra from the book Happy Pocket Full of Money, which I'm rereading very slowly, but I read it in the beginning of 2022, recommended to me by my really dear sister Lauren. This book was definitely like top 1 or 2 books that I've read, drastically and like pivoted my life. And I still come back to some of the phrases and exercises and practices I've learned from that book. Sitting way deeper in my darkness is something, it's a huge theme I've been working through, and big props to my Scorpio man for really showing me the light in this process, because I, just like so many of us, have always ran away from the darkness, like any dark thoughts, whether it's literal like being afraid of the darkness, or whether it's like going through the day and feeling an energy crash or a low wave, or like random intrusive thoughts, or like just not so happy thoughts that are taking me away from my like very joyful self, and me feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to run away. What can I do? Whether it's having a coffee, whether it's let me like go to the gym, let me like, even if it's healthy practices, like let me run away from this darkness in some way. And so being able to sit with that has been really powerful, because the less resistance I've had to the darkness, I feel like I've been able to transmute it so much more. And so with the transmuting of it, I feel like prayer has really been so incredible and supported me. And I've gone back and forth with prayer, like coming from a culture, the main religion, which is actually not a religion, it's more of a philosophy, Hinduism, is so deeply rooted in prayer or mantras. Mantras are really just a mind vehicle. That's what it translates to. And so if you can think of mantras or prayer, whether you're repeating a mantra or whether you're just praying into what is being channeled, and I know that can be sound woo-woo, but what is coming through you from source, if you could pray into that or just feel into that more and more, that could be so healing. So the prayer has helped me a lot, even being here in India, and certain days, just even with my digestion in my belly and me feeling like new foods and me just feeling like, oh my gosh, this is really hard to move through. And coming from a fitness background and eating disorders and just being very conscious of how I look for so many years and my weight, I've had to really tap into trusting my body and myself. And I want to dive into food and body image and different types of foods I've been eating a little bit later on in a different video. But the prayer is what I want to anchor into right now. So just praying and trusting, like, hey body, I love you. I trust you that you're going to move through this, like physically move it through. That has been incredible. Like, I'm talking literally praying and then immediately taking a amazing poop after. But the other types of darkness, like praying through that, like I've had a lot of fears of dark energies, or the times that I feel lonely, and it's kind of fears that I can't even fully like base something off of, but they totally come up because these are all the natural fears that come up when it's actually dark outside, or when you're by yourself, or when you hear noises, or it's like the anxiety that can build up with the job that I have, or like money or stability or freedom, and we start to like ruminate in these thoughts and it feels like we're in a trap. So praying and then repeating these mantras, or like what the nuggets we get from a book or an amazing conversation that's very expanding for us with a friend, being able to repeat these and pray into this, or even like opening ourselves up so we can be a vessel and have these prayers like channels through us of what we need to hear and repeat and voice to ourselves, can be so healing. So with that, as I come on here, because I was really debating, I was like, what's the point? Do I need to even come on here? Like, I'm not making money from these videos. I just want to be really conscious of how much energy I'm putting into content and how much of myself I'm giving, because I really have been valuing like my in-person relationships and how much I'm pouring into those. And we underestimate like how much energy our in-person relationships take. A romantic partnership and union in and of itself takes so much time, but then I've been really focused on family healing, whether it's me being physically here in India or just back home, and then having a really tight-knit group of friends. I don't know how I used to have 20 or 30 or 50 friends before, because just even maintaining 3 to 4 these days and pouring so much into those friendships takes effort and time. And it doesn't always have to require a lot of time, but depending on how you relate and communicate and connect, whether it's in person or virtually or through phone call, it does take presence. And I don't want to do those things when I'm not charged up. So I want to be charged up for all of my connection and my communication in relationship. So as I am more conscious of how much energy I'm putting into everything, I was like, what am I coming on here to share? I really notice the times where I've taken a pause from posting a lot on Instagram, and I'm like, what can I share right now? I gotta post something, I gotta get some engagement, and it's so deeply ingrained. And so sometimes I allow myself to pause, and sometimes I feel myself being like, oh my gosh, I have so much content, I should just post it. Like, I should make more reels because that is the thing to do right now. And continuously allowing myself to pause. And then I had a thought. I was like, I love capturing videos, especially on YouTube, because the content is more evergreen. And I love the idea of documentation, whether it's just for myself or for people who are like you, if you're chiming in on here and watching and listening to this journey, thank you so much. And I hope this is somewhat relatable, my very raw thought flow. But being able to document your own journey, like I was hearing somewhere, it takes a lot of courage to be the star of your own show. And it's not in a way that is like self-centered or it's all about me, but it's like to really step into creating your own reality in your life means you have to exist and take up space in a way that you are the star of your show. And so being able to do that in a way that is still with so much humility and grace and genuineness and authenticity is being really truthful for yourself. And I think that's good. Like I'm so glad that I'm going through this process and going through all the questioning and all the confusion every time I'm coming on here to share, because it is a deep recalibration and deep reprogramming and evolution of myself. It's a death and a rebirth that I'm stepping into. And I pray that for all of us, because I feel like we get so attached to the past versions of ourselves. And I'm like, I'm not a fitness person anymore. I'm not a carnivore anymore. I'm not a vegan anymore. I am not like a specific type of YouTuber trying to fit into a niche. I'm just whatever this next version of myself is. And it is natural to want to like attach to identities of ourselves. That is the part of us that feels good to like exist in the world. So I'm not even saying that we don't need to attach that. Like I might be attached to a new identity. I don't know. Maybe I'll be attached to like being a farmer out here in India. I don't know. These are rice paddy fields, by the way, which is really cool because I haven't really seen this being grown, and I don't eat too much rice, although I'm eating a lot of fermented rice foods here. But I don't know, like this could be my reality and identity, and allowing yourself to evolve and go through so many versions of that is really beautiful. Like I truly believe all of the evolutions we move through is so freaking beautiful. When we hear like just be yourself and that's all you really need to do to exist in the world, it is so freaking true. Like, I feel like I'm just being myself, because at first I was like, what do I share? I want to share something. And I was like, I don't need to actually do that. I just share what I'm literally going through and feeling, and that is the truth. But that message can be so wound up and confusing at times, and I totally get it. And I'm sure that I probably will go through a confusion again and like so many iterations of it. And I love this path of life we take where we consistently get lost and then found again, but it's actually not. It's just a deep remembering of ourselves, but it's very much needed sometimes to get off track, because it exposes us to like different learnings and teachings. And then when we come back, it's actually an even deeper remembering, and it leads us back home. So I think that's really what I'm trying to say on here. I hope that hits. I'll be back soon at some point. I'm not sure what I'll share, but right now it's been really beautiful to be here in India. This is also the chicken coop that I will show right here real quick. These guys actually do get to forage and eat out on land, grass, all of the exotic insects, but they need to stay in something like this because just this past week, 2 of them died. 1 of them got swooped down by a hawk, which they actually soar out here. I don't see any right now, but yesterday I was just staring at one up in the sky while I was hanging my clothes, and it was huge. So one of these guys got swooped by one. The other one might have been eaten by a stray dog. So that's why we gotta protect them. They do get to forage, and they will actually be chicken soup at some point, which is crazy. So I'm feeling very blessed to be out here on the land. You know, there is one last thing I'll end with. And this is actually coming back to the Happy Pocket Full of Money book, but just so many versions, like the Law of Attraction, The Secret, Joe Dispenza's work that I've read and dove into when it comes to abundance and wealth, is like, first of all, your most inner knowing, your truth. Like, God already knows what is there for you. You just need to be there to receive it and experience the wealth. And the wealth can look like this. It doesn't have to be like physical money. But I've literally been like, oh my gosh, it would be so cool to have like 5 acres of land with like a farm and all these things. But the more I work with the ranch that I work with, I'm like, oh my gosh, it takes so much work. It literally takes a village. There's literally people from this village helping to tend and steward this land. So it takes a lot of work, and I'm definitely not at a place in my life where I can or desire to do all of the work. Like, I love being a part of it, but I love teaching and I love speaking and I love creating in this way. And so maybe at some point I will be more hands-on with the land, but at this time I don't feel called to. I feel like I'm soaking up so much knowledge around it. However, just being able to like be out here and experience this, like, this is the best of both worlds. This is the type of thing where they say like you can have it all. Like, I feel like I have all of this. This is my family's, but I don't have to be here all the time. I don't have to be responsible for every like inch of land to tend to. I feel like I'm infusing this place with my energy, and I am sure I'll have a chapter in life where I get to come here and be hands-on on the land when it feels right too. But as I'm going through a big sacred pause, I just get to retreat here. And like, that is just like, God knew somehow. Like, this was a project that was in the making, and it started probably when I was reading the Happy Pocket Full of Money book. And like later that year in 2022, I had hit like negative in my bank account, which I'd never done before. And I'll get into a whole thing about wealth and money and stuff, because it's something that I'd love to share way more about, because I feel like we need to be way more transparent about this. And this video is not just about wealth and money, but it's like me sharing my truth. And so being able to be here with the chickens and getting raw milk from the cows out there grazing like right next door. And the weather in this part of India is actually not crazy humid and hot. And there's no mosquitoes here. I mean, there's probably some, but like, they don't come to this part, so it's not like I'm getting bitten up like I am in other parts of India. And the other part of India that I was gonna stay at is literally flooded with rain right now. Like, flooded, like cars are floating. So how freaking divine is it that I was put right here to experience this? And I don't even feel like I tried hard to. Like, I did the work that felt righteous for me to do, and I worked hard, but I didn't work hard for this, if that makes sense. Like, this, I was just able to receive it. And there's no formula for the deep remembering, but I do think prayer could be a really cool avenue, like opening yourself up to receiving the answers and receiving guidance. It sounds so corny, oh my gosh, but it's so true. And being able to take a pause and reflect, I'm like, wow. Anyways, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. If this resonated, if you're still here, thank you for that. And yeah, until next time.